This is OFN Today on the Ourlads Football Network as we take a look at what transpired week 6. There's still a couple more games to go, and there's nothing wrong with that. 2 games, once again. It's like it's a new deal this season, Ryan. That's the one good thing about this COVID crap. We get 2 Monday night games.
Used to be like they had just the one, and then they started doing the 2 for week 1. I'm surprised they don't do 2 more often. I kind of like it, honestly.
Well, maybe this is this is how it works. You accidentally run into things that make sense.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
All right, so let's start with one of the biggest games, Tampa Bay and Green Bay. It turned out to be a blowout for the Bucs. I kind of look at this more as I think this was just Green Bay's time. They're still a real good football team, but they were held to 201 yards. They just weren't in sync. And there was actually a lot of that going on this week. I think we're at that time of year too where and they were coming off their bye. So that could have had a lot to do with it. It wasn't like Tom Brady lit it up. Neither of the old statesmen, the Hall of Famers, lit it up. It was really the defense of Tampa Bay as they held Green Bay to 201 total yards.
Todd Bowles, I know you don't want to hear this as a Jets fan, but Todd Bowles is a heck of a defensive coordinator. He'll be one of those he'll be getting head coach interviews. I don't know if he'll get another job, but he'll be getting head coach interviews sooner than later. He's a heck of a defensive coordinator. And I look at it, Brady didn't have the huge stats, but Gronk had a touchdown, which, welcome back to the NFL, Gronk. It's about time. And I looked at it as more as like Tampa Bay's coming out party, even without Brady having a big game. I thought this was a game Tampa Bay needed to show they really are a upper echelon NFC team after losing to the Bears and to the Saints earlier this year.
Yeah, they get Evans and Godwin in the lineup at the same time, and with Gronk, even though Evans still not 100%, it just shows you what's going to happen when they're all 100%. And I continue to talk up Ronald Jones. Once again, I see no reason to give Jones's touches to Fournette. Jones is a better rusher right now. And that Tampa defense, you have White, David, Pierre-Paul, Sue. You've got the young secondary coming on, Antoine Winfield, Davis, and those guys. So, it also shows you what Todd Bowles can do when he has talent on his defense that fit the defense he wants to run. He's got those linebackers and those, the pressure guys that he didn't have with the Jets. And and I said this in his last year. I actually think the first half of the season, Todd Bowles matured as a head coach. I think he showed a lot of, he showed more emotion. I think that was very important to show that. The first few years, he was just very matose, if that's even the right word. But I think that's going to make him a better coach. I think he will definitely get another head coaching job. I think he deserves it. When? I have no idea, but I think he deserves it, and he'll be a better coach for it.
Jimmy's and Joe's. You need good players. It doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter who's on your team how good a coach you are if you have bad players. And you get good players, and all of a sudden you look like a better coach. There's a reason no one ever hires like the Bengals defensive coordinator to be their head coach.
Yeah. And I was thinking of Morose. I don't know what Matos came from. I don't know. Yeah, that was pretty bad. All right. By the way, there were 3 NFC North versus NFC South games. That was the best one. Chicago, they just keep winning. And once again, it's because of the defense. The defense, after a pretty poor first year without their stud coordinator, they have figured things out in year 2. And they're really, look, Raekwon Smith's an excellent young player. Khalil Mack, we know what he can do. 2 interceptions for Bridgewater. They held Davis to 2.9 rushing yards per attempt on 18 carries. They forced 3 total turnovers. And even though they lost the total yards from scrimmage game, they still won the game.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater looked terrible in this game. I thought he had shown some things over the last couple of weeks that you're like, oh, you know what? He might be better than we thought. He might be better than a bottom level quarterback. He looked terrible in this game. The Bears defense won this game. Bears still are having trouble running the ball. I don't really know I don't watch every play of every Bears game, but I really don't know how they win. I guess it's just solely on the defense. I don't know how they score, but I guess Nick Foles is your quarterback, and you have some magic. You don't really need, you don't really need too much when you have Nick Foles, I guess.
Well, he doesn't turn the ball over, give the game away. And the defense, yeah, and look, it's still early. I don't think you can win like this the whole season unless your schedule's bad, and easy. Sooner or later, this will catch up to them. But they are looking like in a weaker conference with 7 teams. They're definitely looking like a playoff team now.
Yeah, they just got to go 5-5 really the rest of the way, So.
And they're at LA on Monday night, so this is definitely a step up in competition. Rams are a 5.5-point favorite in that one. By the way, the Packers are at Houston. They're a 3.5-point favorite in that one. And Tampa Bay is at Las Vegas on Sunday Night Football as a 3-point favorite. Also, NFC North versus NFC South had Atlanta, first game for Raheem Morris and Kirk Cousins. If there is going to be, if Mike Zimmer, if it's over for Mike Zimmer at the end of the season, you can thank Kirk Cousins because that was just one awful performance. It's just, I don't even know what to say of how bad he looked and how bad they looked. But Matt Ryan certainly looks a lot better when Julio Jones is healthy.
Yeah, the Falcons did what the Texans did, Greg. They fired their coach and they won their game.
Yeah.
So we've seen that before in the NFL in years past, where a team kind of gets that 1 week or 2 week jolt from firing their coach, fresh start, impress the new guy, whatever. If you're the Jets, there's your evidence for not firing Adam Gase. You don't want to win a game, so just leave him in place.
And what's sad about the whole Jet situation is and the Jet fans would obviously say this, it's just like being a Jet fan, and that is that we have 10 teams that have between 0 and now 1 win. So that means is 9 1-win teams in the NFL.
Correct. I just actually did all the research for a New York Post article. Of those 10 teams, there are 10 remaining opponents' strength of schedule. So not combined 16 game strength of schedule. We already know they sucked their first 6 games. So who's going to suck the last 10 games? And the Jets have the second hardest schedule of those remaining schedule of those 10 teams. So,
well, good for them. We'll see if even though every Jet fan knows what'll happen, is they'll win week 16, week 17.
Week 17 at New England.
At New England, yeah.
The Patriots will let them win so they don't get Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be Belichick, no question. Okay. Also, and look, Minnesota. They knew what they were doing when they gave Cook the big contract, because he seems to be just as important to Minnesota that Barkley is to the Giants.
Yep, absolutely. But he probably just as injury prone too. So far.
That's right. And by the way, Detroit from the NFC North got a win. They needed to win, or else who knows if Matt Patricia would still be around. DeAndre Swift sighting. I guess he needed the bye. He was a full-time rusher, 14 carries, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's about time. This is what I was saying. What are they doing bringing in Adrian Peterson when you use a high pick on Swift and you have Kerryon Johnson? You've taken those carries away from Swift. You know what? Trade Adrian Peterson at the deadline. Enough of him. Go ahead and get him off to one of these other teams that are trying to get to the playoffs. If
you traded DeAndre Swift in your fantasy football league last week, boy, do you look silly.
That's something you did, is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
What'd you get for him?
A first-round pick, because it's a keeper league. So
okay.
I got a first-round pick, which is basically like just picking a rookie next year. A first-round pick and Julio Jones.
Okay.
So
well, we'll have to get you in our keeper league because we're building one for next year on our lads.
I had extra running backs, which is obviously valuable to have, and my team's pretty good, and the team I traded with is pretty bad. So he wanted to dump 32-year-old Julio Jones to a contender, so I took the bait.
There you go. Okay. Well, it's a keeper league, so yeah, that's the bad part.
He wanted the young running back, so he got. Yep.
All right. Well, win a Super Bowl then. Win a championship. Yeah, it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. Sacrificing the long haul for the short-term championship.
Yeah, that's the goal.
All
Yeah.
right, Tennessee won a crazy game with Houston in overtime, and they lose Taylor Lewan for the season with an ACL. That's a big blow because that's what Tennessee wants to do. They want to run the football. They want tough offensive line. He was the toughest of them all, so that's concerning. Uh, when tell you what happened with minute 50 when Houston scored the touchdown. Before Romeo Cornell put up two fingers, I was going, go for two.
I love it.
Like, and when they saw the two fingers, I was like, yeah, all right. And even though the call, even though it didn't work, if Deshaun Watson doesn't get the ball batted down, the game's over. The guy was wide open. It was right. It would have been right in his hands.
I love it. I love the play call. I love it when your team in Washington, Ron Rivera did the same thing yesterday against the Giants. When your team stinks and you're not going to have very many chances to win a game, especially in Houston's case, an upset like that, I love the aggressive play call. And just in general, when you're up 7 late in a game, I love going for 2 because it's the death knell.
Yep.
You make it the other team, you're basically the only way you can lose is if the other team's gutsy enough to go for 2. Otherwise, you're playing worst case overtime, best case game over. I love it.
Yep. Yeah, because now
and I love it from a guy who goes in the NFL. There was no 2-point conversion. There was barely a 1-point conversion. So I love that he's adapted to that kind of thinking.
Yep. And so, but of course, since Houston is Houston and their defense continues to stink, which is Romeo Cornell's specialty, didn't work out for him. But boy, that the offense it's weird that the offense looks like it's like Bill O'Brien, who's supposed to be an offensive guy. He leaves and Deshaun Watson seems like a different guy. I just weird. I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah, hard to figure.
All right. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh beat Cleveland. And they also lost Devin Bush.
This is my shocked face right here. Pittsburgh beat Cleveland.
Pittsburgh beat Cleveland in Pittsburgh.
Don't they beat Cleveland every year? Is that like?
Well, especially in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, they lose Devin Bush with an ACL. They only had 277 yards, but they got the job done. That's all they needed. And Mayfield, maybe he wasn't 100%, whatever. 119 yards passing. They held Cleveland to 75 yards rushing. That's how you beat Cleveland. And Pittsburgh got the big win. Micah Fitzpatrick, another pick 6. Dupree, a couple of sacks. Dupree's going to make a lot of money in the offseason, considering he has a premium position, a specialty that is rare. I don't know if Pittsburgh can afford him. But as far as Fitzpatrick, what a steal that was with the Dolphins.
No, jeez, yeah. People were ready to write him off. I've been covering Minka Fitzpatrick since high school when he was a can't-miss prospect in New Jersey. Not surprised he's turned out to be a good player. And, people argue all day, can you pay a safety top dollar or whatever? If you have a good team, having a good safety is really important. If you're the Washington and you're paying Landon Collins a fortune, well, then you don't need a safety.
Yeah.
But if you're the Patriots with McCourty or the Steelers with Minka
or the Seahawks with Adams,
or the Chiefs with Tyrann Mathieu, if you're a good team, a good safety is a really important piece.
Indianapolis, finally, the best thing that could have happened to them is they trailed the Bengals 21-0. So something awoke Phillip Rivers from his slumber this season. 373 yards and 3 touchdowns. As they were able to come back and beat the Bengals. And again, I think that's the most important, most obvious part of that win is they needed to see that Phillip Rivers, at least from time to time, could still throw the football a little bit.
Absolutely. No, that's the kind of game Phillip Rivers has made a career of losing. So I think it was very important that they rallied and won that game. Huge second quarter there.
Denver over New England, 18-12. And this is as ugly as the Patriots have looked since the Bledsoe days. This was really bad. They had the whole COVID thing that was their fault. So it's not like they got a bad raw deal. And it just was, look, the offensive line, the injuries finally caught up to them. Vic Fangio, an elite defensive coordinator, attacked that offensive line and found all the weaknesses, and the Patriots couldn't do a thing.
No, I look, I'm stunned they lost that game. I'm absolutely stunned they lost that game. I think did the Broncos even score a touchdown in that
No.
game? It was 6 field goals, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm stunned they lost that game. I'm stunned the Patriots couldn't get anything going. I know, like you said, they had kind of a couple weeks off, a herky jerky schedule, but very surprised. You know, after week one, we were saying who's going to win Brady Belichick departure, and we were saying uh, it's the Brady's coming out smelling like roses, right? Well, it looks like we were saying it was Belichick. Well, now it looks like we're saying it's Brady, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Just shows you it's the NFL.
Yeah. Then now all of a sudden Bill Belichick's a bad coach because he doesn't have Tom Brady. Well, I still think they're a playoff team in the AFC, but boy, was that alarming. You just don't see them lose that game, right? You just maybe Rex Ryan's Jets beating the Patriots was a surprise, but to see them lose to a team that the Broncos aren't going anywhere. The Broncos are a bad team. Sometimes they lose to a playoff team, but bad teams, they only usually lose to maybe like the Jets.
Well, how do you think? I mean, if you looked at Drew Lock, 10 of 24, 189 yards and 2 interceptions, if you would have heard that at the end of the game, you would have felt blowout, 38-0 Patriots.
No, absolutely. I totally agree.
And it just shows you this Patriot team, the way it's put together, it's first and foremost the offensive line. Those guys have done a tremendous job so far this year. They're as good as any team running the football, protecting Newton obvious, but they've had too many injuries now along that offensive line. They had another guy go out during the game. They're playing guys all over the place. They moved Wynn from guard to tackle during the game. He's getting beat there. He's getting beat here. It was a mess. And then the 2-point conversion call. And I don't care what anybody says. I'm sorry. I don't care since McCarthy did it and Bill Belichick, because he is a genius, does it. I don't care what kind of a genius Bill Belichick is. Going for 2 early, to me, is the wrong move. And I don't care what anybody says with analytics. You wait to the last possible minute to go for that 2. Especially in the Patriot situation. And they still could have won the football game, by the way, even though they went for 2 early.
I'm one of those guys who I think I might go for 2 every single time. Like, is
that because of the extra point, how far it is?
The extra points further now. I think the success rate on 2-point conversions is like slightly over 50%.
Yep.
So you figure you get 1 out every 2, then you are basically kicking the extra points anyway.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
I would always go for 2. I think Mike Tomlin does that some games, right? Where he goes for 2 to go up 8-0, like from the start of the game. I'm one of those guys. Put me in the opposite camp as you. I would always go for 2, I think. If I had a good offense, you know what I mean? I wouldn't always go for 2 if I'm the Jets or the Giants, but if I'm Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, I'm always going for 2.
The situation, though, Locke throws the interception. Patriots get the ball. They run a couple of razzle-dazzle plays where Julian Edelman throws the ball twice on the drive. They get down to field goal to the point where they could win the game, and Cam Newton throws this terrible pass to a wide-open Harry at the 10. He also overthrew Bird for a potential touchdown on that drive. It was not the great – it was just an ugly game. Ugly game.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the most stunning result maybe of the season for me so far that they lost that game.
Baltimore held on to beat the Eagles. They led 30-14. Ooh. And still, with 4 minutes left, the Eagles had they were a 2-point conversion away, a successful 2-point conversion away from taking the game potentially into overtime. So
I thought it was kind of a strange game, right? Jalen Hurts seemed to spark the Eagles a little bit, but Carson Wentz had one of those games where he's terrible early, and then all of a sudden he reminds you that he's good. And look, they had a couple drop passes, the Eagles, and the Eagles.
Oh, that first one, the Hightower dropped in the first series that was one of those. That was like with the Jets with Perryman. When you're not a very good team and you hit those, it's tremendous for your psyche. When you don't make them, it's like, oh, here we go again.
Correct, exactly. And this is a team playing without Ertz, without Miles Sanders now. We know about the injuries along their offensive line.
So they have all 5 guys out, right, on the offensive line?
They're a shell of what they were supposed to be.
Yeah, I think they have all 5, unless Delane Johnson played. Then they have 4.
I mean, they're supposed to be so much better than the Giants in Washington. I mean, they're just as bad as them. They're all 3 are terrible.
Well, the Eagles are playing and hosting the Giants on Thursday Night Football. Break out the ratings book.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
What do you think the line is?
Yeah, without the line 6 for the Eagles, I think.
Yeah, 6.
Yeah,
So if the Giants win, are they in first place?
It depends what Dallas does tonight. Yeah. But yeah, pretty much. No, look,
That's funny.
The division's brutal, but to me, that was more about, I don't understand. Did the Ravens fall asleep there? I mean, the Ravens are one of those teams you expect when they're up big to put their foot on your neck, and they didn't do that.
And by the way, I think they might have listened to our show because
everybody listens to our show.
Dobbins, Edwards, Ingram combined for 28 carries.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't do much with it, but, hey, you got to keep just doing it.
Correct.
Because
stay well.
Jackson, I'm sorry. I don't care what anybody says. Jackson is not going to get any better passing the ball. He is what he is. He's going to make some good throws. He's going to make some bad throws. He's going to run all over the place. You're going to win a lot of games with him, but you're going to be very lucky to win a Super Bowl with him. That means you have to have a really good defense, but which they do have, yeah. So they'll probably win a Super Bowl with him.
That's what was missing from the Falcons with Michael Vick all those years, was they didn't have that great defense to support them. So they had, what were the running backs, like T.J. Duckett and Warwick Dunn and Michael Vick? They had the running game. They had the running game like they have with Mark Ingram and those guys. They just didn't have the defense the Ravens have.
And by the way, Daniel Jones must have also been listening because he led with 74 rushing yards.
Yeah, but he only threw for 112 yards. I mean,
well, we were talking about, you got to be able to run the ball a little bit. Use your athleticism, we said, and he did.
He had a 49-yard run that Next Gen Stats had his top speed at. I love Next Gen Stats. They had his top speed at like 20.6 miles per hour on a 49-yard run. Only like 3 players in the NFL, running backs, ran their top speed than that yesterday.
There you go. You see?
Yeah.
Get him out there.
Yeah.
Deliberately. Was that a design play?
It was a read option. So yeah.
Okay. See, we got to have more of those.
Yeah.
All right. Meanwhile, San Francisco beat the Rams yesterday. And these are one of those games. See, when the Rams lose, I typically like to look at, or if they don't play very well, I like to look at the running situation. And this is, McVay is like Peyton. Henderson had 14 carries for 88 yards, a 6.3 average. And just how many times he has those fake handoffs with Henderson, it drives me crazy because he's constantly faking the handoff to throw the football. And it's like, dude, run the ball. You can run the football. You have a good running back. You're a much better team when you rush the football. You have a guy that the team ran for 6 yards a carry, and you barely scored 16 points.
Look how long it took Andy Reid to figure that out. I mean, Andy Reid is one of the great coaches of all time, and we've been screaming about him for 20 years that he forgets to run in the big spots. See, that he loves to pass on the 3rd and 2 or the 3rd and 1. Took him a long time to be like, you know what, I could balance this out a little bit.
And now he's got Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I don't know how much Le'Veon Bell has. I know it's sexy around here in New York to say that Adam Gase screwed up Le'Veon Bell, and that's true. I mean, Adam Gase obviously misused him completely, but I don't know that Le'Veon Bell is going to go to the Chiefs and suddenly look like he did on the Steelers. I think there's, all of a sudden it's convenient to forget that running backs kind of lose it all of a sudden, not gradually. I think that might have happened. I think that was a perfect storm of crap with the Jets between Adam Gase not wanting to use him correctly and Bell not having it anymore.
All right. So again, we've already talked about some of the games for Week 7. The biggest one of all is Pittsburgh at Tennessee. And just like a few weeks ago, before when I saw the line, Pittsburgh was a favorite by 2 or 3, and I was like, oh, I'm taking Tennessee. There's no respect for Tennessee. I'm doing it again. This lack of respect for Tennessee, and I think Pittsburgh is clearly one of the best teams in the AFC. That's what we thought in the beginning of the season, so nothing has changed. But this is just no respect. You're a home team. You're undefeated, and you're an underdog.
No, I mean, you and I were both on Tennessee from the beginning, right? We thought
Absolutely.
we both had them Super Bowl team. They were 30-1. It made no sense. They were a Final Four team last year. Look, call it what it is. Ryan Tannehill has played at MVP caliber football since he became the starter for the Titans, whatever it is, like 16, 17 games ago. He's been MVP caliber good. Derrick Henry is MVP caliber good if MVP still went to running backs. A strong defense. I was impressed that yesterday they scored whatever it was, 42 points. I think of them winning games in the 20s, but they showed they could win a new kind of way. I'm very impressed with the Titans. I agree with you. I like the Titans in that game.
Yeah, it should be a good one either way. Also, and we mentioned the primetime games, which would be good. There's a big game again for Las Vegas, coming off a big win. They host Tampa Bay after their win. So that's going to be a good one. And Gruden goes up against his old team, by the way, in that one. Raiders against the Bucks. Seattle also at Arizona. So I think this is it for Arizona. I think this is their chance. They're at home playing Seattle. This is their chance to prove whether or not they belong.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to beat Seattle, but I think they are what they are. If they lose, I don't think they're going to suddenly tumble to 4-12.
No.
I think they're probably an 8-8 team that'll probably lose this game. They're not ready for this step yet. Maybe next year.
Well, the problem with them is Chandler Jones out for the year.
Yeah.
That's huge. You can't replace that. That's tremendously bad. And Carolina at New Orleans. So if Carolina has a chance to get back.
Very similar to what you were just saying, right? Carolina is kind of in that same position Arizona is.
Yeah. And Teddy Bridgewater coming back to New Orleans.
Yep.
Little storyline there.
The difference is Seattle isn't desperate for a win. New Orleans is still desperate for wins.
Yes.
So, Teddy Bridgewater coming back to New Orleans is a nice little storyline. But New Orleans needs to play a dominant game. That's what New Orleans needs.
And this Michael Thomas thing, that didn't work out too well in Saints' last game. So we'll see if there's any carryover.
They had a bye yesterday, right?
Last week. Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll see if because once you start doing the whole thing with what happened to Breeze in the offseason, and then Michael Thomas has some sort of weird practice deal that, I mean, when was the last time that you heard that there was like a scuffle between a premier superstar and another player, and the superstar gets benched? That just doesn't happen very often unless the superstar did something really bad.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah.
So who knows what went on there, but we'll see whether or not there's any carryover. All right, Ryan, appreciate it as always. You going to Philly?
I'll be there. Yep, I'll be in Philly, and I don't know where are the Jets on Sunday. They're home
against Buffalo. They start their trifecta of hell: Buffalo, Kansas City, and the Patriots.
Ooh. Oh, and then the bye, right?
Then they'll kiss their season goodbye. Yeah, completely.
No.
You know what they're hoping for? They're hoping for a Biden victory, and then they're hoping that he will shut everything down, and then wherever the Jets are, like 0-8 or 0-11, the season will come to an end, and the Jets will get the first pick.
They'll be 0-9 after that trifecta of Kansas City, Buffalo, and New England. They'll be 0-9.
Yes, they will be
going into the bye week. And
that should give them a two-game cushion,
and that's probably where it falls on Adam Gase. Right, bye week.
I don't know. I think that I still think you go with them till the end, the only reason is because I think they just want to give the most out of Sam Darnold with Gase, and that's it.
Here's you brought up Biden, and I don't really dabble in politics, but should Biden win, then I assume Woody Johnson comes back to America from
I think that's a bad thing.
And if he comes back, then that'll be the end of Adam Gase. I mean, he's Christopher's guy. If Woody comes back, I would think
that's a good point. Yeah, I've actually liked because what Christopher Johnson, what he's done with all the political stuff. I think he's handled it very well within his players and his locker room. and that helps with free agency. And then I think he hired an excellent general manager. So
what free agent is going to want to come to the Jets? I mean, after
if they get Trevor Lawrence, they will.
Yeah, I got that. They had Sam.
Well, they got to have a head coach too. I mean, if you get Trevor Lawrence, you're going to get a good head coach.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they hire the guy they need to hire is Eric Bieniemy, but Eric, I don't know. Eric Bieniemy,
no head coaching experience. New York, we've seen that all over again. That's a bad.
Somebody I talked to loves Eric Bieniemy. Yeah, he'll probably end up in Houston with Deshaun Watson.
Probably. That's the thing that's a bummer though for assistant coaches and so forth, that you can't touch them until the season's over.
Yep.
You know,
yep.
I mean, it's
him probably until the Super Bowl's over. Yep.
That's true. All right, Ryan. Good job as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, Greg. Thanks for having me.